So this is either going to prove washable rugs are genuinely practical or completely ruin this white rug. And over the next few weeks, I'll be testing more washable rugs, including higher pile rugs, robot vacuum compatibility, and long-term durability. Because honestly, washable rugs sound amazing in theory, but I wanted to see what actually happens in a real home. I picked 3 8x10 rugs across different price ranges that all had strong reviews. I wanted to compare quality, washability, how they handled stains, robot vacuums, and especially whether they still looked good after going through an actual washing machine. If you enjoy real-world home product testing like this, robot vacuums, washable rugs, kitchen gadgets, mattresses, all the stuff people actually use every day, make sure you subscribe. I test products side by side so you can see what's genuinely worth spending money on. And if you want links to any of these rugs, they're all in the description below. Before testing, I let all 3 rugs lay flat for several days so the creases could fully relax. First up is the Lofus rug, which is our budget option. It's very thin, basically just soft rug material with non-slip backing and almost no cushioning underneath. But honestly, I like the abstract pattern because I think it could hide messes surprisingly well, even though it's a lighter color. And one thing I immediately appreciated was how flat it laid. My robot vacuums had zero trouble getting over the edges. Now for the grape juice test. When I poured it on, the liquid immediately beaded up on the surface. So if you catch it quickly with paper towels, you could probably stop most of it from soaking in. But that's not why we are here. So I rubbed it in and let it sit. Then I cleaned half of it using my Bissell HydroSteam. And honestly, it did an incredible job. But I left the other stain, letting it sit first for about a half hour, and then I threw the entire rug into my washing machine. Now, I do have an ultra capacity washer, 5.3 cubic feet, and this thing barely fit. So if you're considering an 8x10 washable rug, keep in mind you may need a laundromat unless you have a very large machine. I think regular washer could probably handle a 5x7, maybe even a 6x9, but I personally wouldn't push much beyond that. Once it finished washing, it actually wasn't terribly heavy, although that probably depends on how aggressively your washer spins out water. I dried it draped over chairs overnight, and the impressive part is that the stains came out completely, not even a faint outline. Now, post-wash, it definitely didn't look brand new anymore. The edges became slightly wavy, and some areas of the pile looked a little crushed. But unless someone was closely inspecting it, I honestly don't think most people would notice. Next is the PLHXFR rug, which is another budget option. And honestly, I'm glad I chose something completely different here because the bold floral pattern, the darker colors, and brighter tones made the space feel warmer instantly. Quality-wise, it's actually very similar to the Lofus. Still thin, still soft, still no real cushioning. And just like the Lofus, the design appears to be printed mainly on the surface with lighter material underneath. It's a little more noticeable on this darker rug, but not a deal breaker. Robot vacuums handled it perfectly, and during the grape juice test, it behaved almost exactly the same as the first rug. The liquid beaded up initially, cleaned well with the HydroSteam, and washed surprisingly well in the machine. After washing, I saw some minor issues. Wavy edges and slightly flattened pile, but I do think a lot of that improves after the rug rests for a few days. Then we get to the Pure Cozy, and this one felt noticeably more premium. It still isn't thick like a traditional heavy rug, but it has a slight amount of padding the others didn't have, and it just feels a little more substantial overall. The vintage design also looks more expensive in person. I really like the softer antique look. Robot vacuums had no trouble with it either. During the stain test, it cleaned up really nicely, and surprisingly, it still fit in my washer without much more trouble than the thinner rugs. But the biggest difference showed up after washing. It still had slightly wavy edges at first, but they flattened back down quickly, and unlike the other 2 rugs, the surface actually looked just as good after washing, even, uniform, refreshed. So, after testing all 3, I honestly don't think any of them were bad values for the money. But if you want the cheapest option that still works well, the Lofus surprised me. If you want bold colors and a warmer look, I genuinely love the PLHXFR. But if I had to pick one that looked the best after washing and felt the most premium overall, it was definitely the Pure Cozy. And honestly, after this test, I finally understand why washable rugs have become so popular. If you want links to all 3 rugs, they're in the description below, and subscribe because I've got more washable rug comparisons and robot vacuum tests coming soon.